His commandments ain't hard to do. The hard thing to do is fight yourself. You got to bring your own self into subjection so you can keep the commandments of God. Because it's easy to not cut your beard. That's a commandment. It's easy to keep the Sabbath. That's a commandment. It's easy to not eat pork. That's a commandment. But you know it's hard? Fighting yourself. That's the hard part. But remember, if you love God, you're going to keep the commandments. What's the opposite of that? If you hate God, what you going to do? You're going to break his commandments. Do you hate God? I asked the question earlier. You see that say Sprint Mart, right? So if I'm looking for a Sprint Mart and I see that sign, that's indicating that that is a Sprint Mart, right? That's a sign, that's an indicator. That's what a sign is, an indicator. So these curses are indicators of who the people are. It say these curses gonna be on these people for a sign forever, meaning even to this day. Let's read the first curse. Jump to verse 16.
Verse 16, cursed shall thou be in the city.
Where do black people live in the cities? Do we live in the best parts of the city? We live in the hood, right? We call it the hood, the slums, the ghetto, the trap. That's what we call it, right? Every last one of those things are negative terms, but that's what we call it. That's where we inhabit. That's where we live as black people, right? Who gets shot down by police in the street? Who getting robbed in the inner city? Who getting took to jail in the inner city? These are curses that's supposed to be on the Israelites. The Israelites, not black people. These are on the Israelites.
Right.
So if these curses are on black people, who are the black people today? The Israelites. Keep reading.
Cursed shall thou be in the field.
We from Mississippi. Now we all know about fields. We all know about cotton fields. We all know about slavery. Who was in the fields? Who was in the cotton fields picking cotton for free? Who? But the Bible said the Israelites was going to be cursed in the field. Who was picking tobacco? Who was getting whipped? Who was working from sun up to sundown? Us. But the Bible said that was going to happen to the Israelites. So hold on. If it happened to us, would that make us? The Israelites, right? Jump down to verse 30.
Verse 30, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
Y'all know what's happening there. It say you're going to betroth a wife. You're going to take a woman to be your wife, right? But another man is going to lie with her. If you was in slavery at the time and you had her for your wife, right? Can you do anything to stop the slave master from sleeping with her? It's nothing you could have done, and that happened to our people. Our sisters got raped from these bastards. That happened to our people. They raped your daughters. They raped your grandmother and your mother. That's what them people did to you. And that's what they did to her and her folks, her parents, her grandparents. We got to remember that just because you don't physically remember being in slavery, that don't mean you wasn't there. This happened to the Israelites. That happened to your people. And God is saying this is happening to the Israelites, but this happened to us. They changed our name from Israelite to black, Negro, nigga, all that so we couldn't relate to the Bible. But we reading the curses and we relate to the Bible. How is that if we not these people? Jump down to verse 48.
Verse 48, therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies.
He said, therefore, for breaking these commandments, you're going to have to serve your enemies. And it didn't stop back then. Now, understand something. One thing that black people don't realize, the Bible said we got enemies. He said we was going to have to serve our enemies. Where y'all work? Where you work? You work for DoorDash. Who owned that company? Do he look like us?
Man.
Do the people, wherever you work, do they look like you? Nah. The people that we serve and the people that we pay our taxes to, the people that we get our gas from, the people that we buy our clothes from, do they look like us? No. So it say we got to serve our enemies for what?
Which the Lord shall send against thee.
What the Lord sent against us. Why did God send our enemies against us? Because we didn't want to listen to him. Right. He said, if you don't want to serve me, you're going to serve somebody. And this person is going to do you dirty. This person is going to rob, steal, and kill you. That's what's going to happen. They're going to take your Messiah's image and make it a white one and have you believing the white man is better than you.
That's right.
It's going to have you believing the order of things now, white people being on top, that's the right way to be. We're supposed to be at the bottom. That's what they're going to have us believing. But keep reading.
In hunger.
We got to have to serve him in hunger. When you hungry, you go to Walmart. Who own that? When you go to Wendy's, who own that? When you go to McDonald's, who own that? But that's where we go to get our food, right? But he said we was gonna have to serve our enemies in hunger
and in thirst.
and in thirst. I ain't even gonna name all the water beverages we got in the store, all the sodas. I'm gonna just ask you one question. Who we pay our water bill to?
Hey.
Who we pay? Exactly, we pay them to the white folk. God say we was gonna have to go to them in hunger and in thirst
And in nakedness.
and in nakedness, like I asked you earlier. When you go to Walmart, and I say this every time I teach, we pick cotton in the Mississippi Delta, in Mississippi period, for hundreds of years. But we still gotta go to Walmart and buy a cotton shirt. That don't even make sense. We should own cotton, how much we done pick. But we still, matter of fact, who own Nike? Do we look like us?
No.
Who own Adidas? Do they look like us? Who own Gucci? Do they look like us? But God said you gonna have to go to these people, your enemies, in hunger, and thirst, and in nakedness, and what else?
And in want of all things.
Meaning, when you need a birth certificate, when you die and need a death certificate, when you need toilet tissue, when you need education, you gotta go to these people. They're gonna teach you about your history. They're gonna teach you how to thrive in their society. They're gonna teach you your place. Because he said you gotta go to them in want of all things. Even if you wanna have a baby, you gotta go to them. You need their institutions, you need their hospital. You need, and even if it's not somebody that look like them, I bet that look like us. Let's say you went and got a doula or something like that, right? They went to their schools to make sure they could perform that on you. So we gotta go to these people in want of everything. But what this enemy gonna do?
And he shall put a yoke.
It say, and he. You've been saying it all night. You've been saying it all night. You've been saying the white man. The white man. It's more than that, but that's the biggest one right now that we can identify with. He shall put a yoke of iron. Read that again.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
Now watch this, man. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is a real image right here. This is real images. This is a real image. That's a yoke of iron on a black man's neck. Who put, the Bible said what? Read that again.
And put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Who put a yoke of iron on this black man's neck right here? Who did this? Who did this? But God said this was going to happen to the Israelites. He said this. He didn't say this was going to happen to black people. He said this is going to happen to the Israelites. So who are the Israelites according to the Bible? Today. It got to be us. Nobody else fit these curses. You can put that down. Nobody else fit this. Watch this. One more scripture and I'm going to let y'all go. Verse 68. Verse 68. Come on, watch this. Matter of fact, how did black people get to America? White folks, how did they bring us here? On ships? Surely that's not in the Bible. Moses ain't say that. Because if he did, then everything about what happened to black people would lead to us being the Israelites. If he said ships in the Bible, then yeah, we the Israelites. It got to be. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Remember, the Israelites were in Egypt before. And remember, God killed the Egyptians. But in Egypt, the Israelites were slaves. They were slaves in Egypt. But watch what he say about Egypt.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
So he done brought us out of the land of Egypt.
Out of the house of bondage.
What did he call Egypt?
House of bondage.
So what is Egypt? The house of bondage. Now let's jump back. Let's see what he said again. Read that.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
So he gonna bring you into the house of bondage again. What is another word for bondage? If somebody got you constrained, you can't leave. As much as you try to run away, they track you down and bring you back. That's slavery. That's slavery. That's slavery right there. So he said he's going to bring you into slavery again. How are we going to go into slavery this time?
With ships.
Who came into slavery on ships? Read that again.
With ships.
Who came into slavery on ships? We did. But God said that's what's going to happen to the Israelites. That's what's going to happen to Jesus' people, the Jews. He said that was going to happen to the Israelites. So we here to show y'all, you are those people. You are the people of the Bible. And it's a reason why this happened to us. Remember what we read. This happened to us because we broke God's commandments. The only reason we going through these curses is because we broke those commandments and we continue to break them today. The only way we going to reverse the curses and bring Christ back to save us is to stop breaking the commandments. We got to learn the commandments of God and apply them to our lives wholeheartedly. Is it going to be easy?
Nope.
The commandments ain't hard to do. It's you got to fight.
It's a mind thing.
It's a mind thing. You got to fight yourself. You going to tell yourself over and over, this is too hard, I can't do it. But give me 1 John chapter 5, verse 3 real quick. But remember what God said. He said his commandments ain't hard to do. It's just hard fighting yourself. It's hard fighting that man in the mirror. It's hard stopping all those addictions we have. Not saying like drugs or anything, but anything could be an addiction. But it's hard fighting those things that we got to fight to keep the commandments of God. Watch this.
1 John chapter 5, verse 3.
Bring it out.
For this is the love of God.
For this is the love of God. So all of us out here love God, right? We love God. At least that's what we say. But this is how God say to love him.
That we keep his commandments.
If you love God, you're going to keep his commandments. Keep reading.
And his commandments are not grievous.
And his commandments ain't hard to do. The hard thing to do is fight yourself. You got to bring your own self into subjection so you can keep the commandments of God. Because it's easy to not cut your beard. That's a commandment. It's easy to keep the Sabbath. That's a commandment. It's easy to not eat pork. That's a commandment. But you know it's hard? Fighting yourself. That's the hard part. But remember, if you love God, you're going to keep the commandments. What's the opposite of that?
Breaking.
If you hate God, what you going to do? You're going to break his commandments. Do you hate God? But you showing him every day you do when you break his commandments. He don't see that. He don't see that you love him in your heart. He don't care about that because he said your heart is deceitfully wicked. But read that, 1
John chapter 2, verse 3. And hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments.
The only way you know how people be like, I got a personal relationship with God. God said, I don't even know you if you ain't keeping my commandments. So the only way to know God or to love God is to keep his commandments.
That's right.
If you hate God, because that's what he see. He see those, like the scripture saying on Proverbs 8:17, I love them that love me. So if you don't keep his commandments, he don't love you. As much as you scream out to God, God, I love you, he looking down and saying, you ain't keeping my commandments. I don't even know you. Just like how you would do somebody in the streets that do you wrong over and over, you ain't got nothing for them. God the same way. If you're not going to keep my commandments, I ain't got nothing for you but death. Read that.
He that said, I know him, and keepeth not his commandment, is a liar.
You see what God say? If you say you love him and you don't keep his commandments, you a liar. That makes you a hypocrite. You don't want to be that for God. Because God going to keep, everybody that's not keeping his commandments are going to die. And I ain't talking about the death we all got to take. I'm talking about when he resurrect you to be judged, you're going to die again. But it's going to be by pain. Nobody wants to live in a lake of fire forever where you can't die. That's what's going to happen if we don't keep his commandments.
What is the nation? Nation is men leading by example.